For all the Hanna Barbera fans out there, when you reference an action-adventure show from the 60s led by a kid, the immediate one that comes to mind would have to be Jonny Quest. And with good reason too. Jonny Quest was huge when I was growing up.
Hey, yo, pause!
Especially Jonny Quest: The Real Adventures from the mid-90s. Shout out to Race Bannon.
No relation.
That intro felt so premium, like I should have been paying to watch it. Man, it gets you so hype. But another show called Dino Boy that aired around the same time as the original Jonny Quest with a different redhead kid really flew under the radar. Online aside, I've actually never heard anyone in the real world mention this show before. The series was sandwiched between two Space Ghost episodes and was about a kid who bailed from a falling aircraft and landed in a jungle that time forgot, which had allusions to South America. He was then rescued from a saber-toothed tiger attack by a caveman who had a pet dinosaur, and the caveman weirdly adopted him into this unlikely family. Fun fact.
Not really.
The caveman, who was named Ugg, had the same voice actor as Race Bannon from Jonny Quest.
No relation.
And he went on to voice so many other characters for Hanna Barbera, including Xander from the Herculoids. For whatever reason, the dino had a modern-day dog collar while living in this prehistoric jungle. Which makes me wonder if this kid was stuck in some Truman Show scenario and everyone else was an actor or an animatronic creature. Kinda like Bolt. Maybe this show was actually Bolt before Bolt, and this kid grew up to be psychologically scarred like all those child actors in Hollywood. Some have tried to make a link between this kid's escape from the falling plane and Superman's escape from Krypton before its destruction, but that feels like a serious Stretch Armstrong to me. The parallels really end there, unless Ma and Pa Kent are the caveman and the Brontosaurus who was creatively named Bronte or Bronto. They couldn't really decide.
Hold it, Bronto! I don't get it, Bronny.
They probably should have gone with Martha.
Why did you say that name?
And Lex would be any one of the colorful cast of villains or creatures in this jungle. Maybe one of these giant bald vultures actually. No idea who Lois would be in this comparison either. How tenuous, this theory does not work at all. Whose plan was this again?
The plan had holes!
I don't think we should be allowed to make video essays. We just get on these microphones and say anything. Oh, disclaimer. Do not take me too seriously. Most of these random shots I take are just for entertainment. I'm starting to explain myself a lot in these comment sections, so it's important to know that I'm not a very serious person despite my tone. But there really wasn't much to these characters if I'm being honest, and I wouldn't say nor would I expect there to be much on-screen chemistry between a prehistoric caveman and a modern kid with bad fashion sense. The characters were just largely vehicles for the audience to experience this jungle and go on wild adventures with some weird creatures. While Todd
Todd is the kid's name. I didn't mean to just name drop him like we know each other. I'm not really a name dropper.
While Todd contrasted Ugg as an uppity school-educated kid, Ugg, who was illiterate in contrast, was more street smart, or should I say jungle smart, than the kid. Kinda like someone who skipped college and got all his experience on the job, and he had some interesting Horatio Kane moments of his own.
Ronto, run. Tree man rope. Dino Boy. Prisoner.
I will say, as much as they weren't a charismatic duo like Fred and Barney or Wilma and Betty or Pebbles and Bam Bam or Lippy the Lion and Hardy Har Har,
one of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong.
you actually bought that they cared about each other and quickly formed a unit to survive that jungle. Every time they put themselves in mortal danger to save each other, you bought that it was plausible that they genuinely cared for one another. And there were also random moments of character development and interactions that felt like there was something deeper going on with Ugg.
Hey, Ugg! That's enough! Take it easy!
Hug still mad.
Some episodes into the show, this creature called Tusco, who was a woolly mammoth, also popped up unintroduced like we previously knew him. Seriously, he just showed up and Todd was like,
Ugg! You brought Tusco!
Who?
and I also loved, no you don't understand, I loved these Kevin Harts. They were hilarious. A lot funnier than Kevin actually. People think they have haters in their lives? Nah, these were the original haters. And for no reason at all.
I think if you get kicked in the face, you deserved it, because that means that you watched the foot come to your face.
Help me! Help me!
I don't know why, but small, perennially angry men is just so funny to me.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. I sentence you to 5,000 lashes for conduct unbecoming a black man.
But I miss these purely adventure-based shows. If you've watched Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, you can tell Genndy grew up with these cartoons. In my since-deleted Dexter's Lab video that I will remake soon, I went on and on about how Genndy captured my childhood perfectly, and Primal feels like a natural progression of the concepts in this show, but from a more grown-up lens. Take away the kid and swap Bronte for a T-Rex and these are almost the same show. The giant creatures, the setting, the satisfying violence, it's all in there. Only difference is Dino Boy was all about blunt force trauma. Well, most of the time. And Primal is not afraid to show blood and gore. Fam. Genndy is a generational talent. Even as highly rated as he is, I still feel like he's somehow underrated. But the land that time forgot has really become ubiquitous in pop culture these days, that the older shows like this would not get the credit for popularizing the concept way back when. Marvel has the Savage Land where the heroes get to interact with dinosaurs. Shout out to Sauron. No, the other Sauron. Cause dinosaurs are just objectively cool. Even Batman himself loves dinosaurs. And we've seen so many giant spiders in modern TV shows and Hollywood movies that when you watch this show, you can easily forget that they did it much further back as early as the 60s. I sometimes wish there was a temporary neuralizer so we can watch these shows with the same lack of context of the 60s. But to further emphasize how all ages appropriate this show was, I can draw comparisons to the Jungle Book with all the danger that Mowgli had to navigate at every turn in that Indian jungle. Shout out to my first successful video. And Frank Frazetta's Fire and Ice, which is the complete opposite of the Jungle Book. Shout out to another moderately successful video of mine. The sense of adventure that comes from being in a perennially hostile environment with monsters and weird creatures at every turn, but with the assurance that the protagonists would always be okay, is a great balance when introducing kids to adventure shows. Like with most things in the Hanna Barbera action show catalog, the plots of the episodes of this show, which included dangerous and unruly creatures, slavery, violent disposal of villains, and happy endings, was almost identical to Space Ghost, Herculoids, Mightor, and all the other adventure shows of this time. More than any other show, I expected a crossover with Mightor in this show, but it never came. But to the point I made in my other recent Hanna Barbera video, the quality here was much closer to that of Space Ghost than the lower quality. It is still very rewatchable and the stakes feel quite substantial. I also really love the creature design and villain costumes and giant monsters fighting each other. You can just tell that the artist had fun fleshing them out. And as many and as random as they were, they really made the world feel quite lived in and diverse, from wolf people to bird riders to dinosaurs and all sorts of giant bugs. It was just peak adventure. And credit to the writers for balancing out the dynamic between Todd, Ugg, and Bronte. Todd and Bronte were actually useful a lot of times and not merely annoying sidekicks to the big, strong caveman. They saved Ugg quite a few times, sometimes in implausible ways, but there was also a lot of knowledge transfer between them, so their dynamic always felt balanced.
But like I said,
Me no. Ugg like bow and arrow.
I've said it before, I really like found family stories, and so it impresses me a lot that they managed to make it work with this weird combination of characters. If I was to criticize something in the show that isn't really a huge deal, I'd say the amount of kidnapping for sacrifice to some weird creature was at an all-time high. Kind of felt like the writers were using it as a crutch, but that would just be me picking nits. All in all, this show is still really entertaining. Granted, it's very simple and old-fashioned, but I do think
people might just need a little old-fashioned.
Let me know if you remember this show at all, or if I at least convinced you to check it out if you haven't seen it before, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Hanna, hey, cut it out.
Yeah, that's not funny.